Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Story Darlings podcast. I'm Sandra.
And I'm Tara.
Tara, what are we talking about today?
We have an extra episode for you. So we enjoyed last month's book club book so much that we read the second in the series, The Rule of the Aurora King. So we couldn't leave it off where it ended there. Although, after I read this one, I discovered there's a third book and a fourth one coming out. The third one's not out until June, so I am not a patient waiter. And this is killing me, but that's okay.
It'll be released before we know it.
Yeah. I just want to know what is going on in Lor's life.
I enjoyed this one more than Trial of the Sun Queen.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Trial of the Sun Queen, it was fun. It was good. I enjoyed the competition and the romantic intrigue with, the different players in the game. But there was just something more epic about this one. More higher stakes. We got to see more of Nadir's character, and he was very swoon-worthy.
Mm-hmm. Even when he wasn't trying to be.
No, and it's like Tara has a thing for these snarky kind of asshole male, front man. But
it's my red flag. It's my red flag.
She will proudly wave that flag all day long.
My toxic trait here.
But he was so swoon-worthy. And the beginning of this book picks up because, the last book, she was captured from the prison by... what is his name? Mael.
Atlas.
And yeah, she was in Atlas's prison, but Mael or Mael and
Amaya. Whatever however you say this.
Butchering these
Nadir's
names.
Sister. And
they
his friend.
Her. Yes. And so now she is the prisoner at Nadir's secret estate that Daddy doesn't know about. And she is being kind of a mean B word for rightful reason.
Yes, when he's holding her hostage, she is rightfully a bitch. But then, there's a point where he turns from being a hostage, holder to, yeah, you're free, but, could you help me with this stuff? And at that point, I'm like, stop whining. Stop whining, okay? He wasn't in control of his dad's actions. Stop whining. Stop holding it against him that his dad did something. Obviously, he didn't agree with that.
The way that you said that, it was a very similar reading journey to, reading Throne of Glass and Selena hating Dorian. And it's like when she really hated his father and the things that he put her and her family through. It was a very similar thing, right?
Yeah.
Yep. But I loved all of the little banter, snipey moments between Nadir and Lor because she's yelling things at him. She's hurling things across the room. And he go as far to make her sleep in the floor of his bedroom, with him and his two dogs.
Yes. And he doesn't even just make her do that. He chains her to but I also enjoy the people that we can't pronounce their names take on this because I think it was Mael who's just yelled at one point, just go fuck already.
Yes, that was I'm glad you brought up that line. It was so
because good. He was this is foreplay.
Which it makes a lot of sense because we've been getting this soulmate vibe off of Nadir and Lor the entire time. And for Mael to just shout you guys are obviously sexually frustrated. Just go fuck it out or whatever he said. It was so perfect.
We also meet Lor's grandmother. Her name is Cersei. She was, as we've discovered through this book, I think it's through this book, it may have been already, but we discovered that Lor is the lost descendant of the Heart Queen. So she is, in fact, the person that Ryan was looking for, and she was able to hide her magic, and she hid it a little too well because now she can't reach it. But we meet Cersei, who is her grandmother, and Cersei was the Heart Queen that destroyed the world. And we get a little bit more backstory into that and into Cersei's life before she destroyed the world. And so when we first meet her, she is being like drawn out to be betrothed to the second son, S-O-N, of the son, S-U-N, king. And so we find out that Atlas was never supposed to be the Sun King. His brother Kairos, we don't know what happened to him, but we do find out that the primary cannot kill the current one in power, or their powers will be stripped, right? Yeah. And the like primary will go to a different family. It's safe to say, or at least I think it's safe to say, that Atlas did not kill his brother, or he would not be the primary or
directly.
Sun King.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But we find out that he was never supposed to be that. His brother was, and he was being betrothed to Cersei. So dude tried to get in like, and he did get it on with the granddaughter of his first wife to be, which is just creepy to me. Like, ew. But he was supposed to marry Lor's grandmother.
What was your hot take on Cersei as a character, like as a person?
Bitch is crazy.
That was my take too. I was like, okay, calm down on the power trip.
I liked her. I liked the story because we also see like she, right after she like fucks like hard nose Atlas because he wanted to put her through the sun trials, right? And she's like, no, I'm already a queen on my own. Why the fuck would I want to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so she's like, hard pass. And she pisses off her mom, and her mom's like, well, then I'm not going to give you the throne because we really need them as alliances. And she walks out and she meets Wolf, who is the Woodlands king. And they are mates, which we do find out that that is a thing in this world. Because me and Sandra were picking up on this mate vibe between Nadir and Lor this whole time. And we find out that, in fact, that is a thing in this world. And that these two are, and they are acting very, very similar to Lor and Nadir. And so they get together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in this, produce a child. And we hear about this child, but everybody else thinks this child doesn't survive whatever happens when Cersei destroys the world, right? Nobody thought this child survived. But in fact, this child was like snuck out and was protected by Wolf's brother. And by protected, I mean the child was put in the woods with a caretaker and he went and lived his own life.
Yeah.
And that was the end of him being involved in this.
Yeah.
And so this child was Lor and Tristan and Willow's mother. And so she had given them bare bones of their history and had told them to safeguard this gem, right? I don't know that she actually knew her history, though, like, because she was snuck out of the palace as a child. And it doesn't sound like she had anybody like to like really be able to tell her history. So I'm not sure if like the fact that they don't know very much about their history is because their mom didn't trust them or what.
I think the main thing that was impressed upon them was to be very secretive about where they came from and to never speak about the past. And so things just got forgotten over time and kind of buried. And
in that secretive thing is they not only had to be secretive of who they were, but they also had to be secretive of their powers. And so Lor was the strongest. She remembers being super powerful as a child. And normally, if you're super powerful as a child, it just keeps going up, right? And so the fact that she was super powerful as a child, Nadir's like, once you get your powers back, like, there's no telling how powerful you'll be. And her grandmother was the most powerful primary ever to exist. So we're talking like Reese level of power, right? Like the most powerful. And so we get some hints that Lor is going to be crazy powerful if we can figure out how to like get her powers back.
Unlock her.
Yes, but the other thing that they're hiding is Heart has a special power that nobody knows that Heart has. And it is one of making yourself look human as opposed to Fae so that you can hide better. And so Tristan and Willow, after they make it out of whatever the, like, Nostraza, is that what it's called? Nostraza, Nadir's sister, and Helene, like, basically kidnap them out so that Lor has a reason to help them. And they come and start living at this secret house, right? And they are able to break themselves out of their human form. But Lor is not. So she's like just stuck in her little human form.
She reminded me of like in Shadow and Bone, Alina like wasn't able to channel the light power on her own, except with like an amplifier or some reason to like help her. Like it's just that suppressed from childhood. Definitely reminded me of that.
You get this, or I got the sense that part of the reason it's taking her so long is because her power was so big that she had to work extra hard to hide it. And to keep it in.
The way that it's described, her power being wound up, just like layer after layer after layer woven around it and locked.
I think it is maybe harder for her to get to it because she had to do so much to hide it. And I think there's also like an emotional, like intellectual, like fear for her of her power. Because at such a young age, she was told to fear it and to hide it and to whatever. And so I think that there's some emotional part to it too, to the hiding of it.
Definitely a defense mechanism there. Trauma. It kind of reminds me of like Poppy from Blood and Ash levels of power, potentially, depending on, you know, how that plays out in the next book. There was a funny scene with like Lor trying to escape and Nadir just catching her in the woods, which it kind of reminded me of Akatar, honestly. Like when, you know, Feyre's thinking about trying to get out, just like Beauty and the Beast, like Belle trying to get out of there. It did remind me of that. But it's like this instance where finally, I mean, it wasn't a good interaction between the two of them, but it kind of opens that door for them to start having like more like shared moments and conversations. And also there's this ceremony called Frostfire coming up. And I love like anytime there's a big celebration or a ball, just a reason to get dolled up and stuff. I like live for those scenes for some reason in these books.
Well, and I love those scenes because, like, just watching Nadir, like, you can tell he's in love with her, right? He can't tell he's in love with her.
He's so grumpy about it.
He's a little bit behind on this. And she's in love with him, and she's also a little bit behind on this. And they are just, like, fighting it so much. But you get these glimpses during this Frostfire of that those feelings, and like Nadir's come out as being very, very possessive outwardly because he can show his possessiveness, and he like attacks two people because they got too close to her. And then hers comes out as possessiveness too, but in more of a catty way. Like he is seen flirting with like one of his former girlfriends, if that's what you want to call it. And she is just getting so mad. And then she's like turning it in on herself and like, why am I not good enough? I don't know how many times I've had the super possessive man and then the woman who's like, well, obviously I'm not good enough for him if he's going to do that. And it hit home.
All of this to say, like the whole time Nadir is trying to get information out of Lor, and she's very resistant to share anything, demands her brother and sister be released. And so finally, like it was one of the most emotional touching parts in the beginning of the book is like she comes in and they're there waiting on her, freshly freed from the prison.
And up until this point, she has only called them her friends. But the second they meet in person, like everybody in the room is like, they are not just friends. That's her family.
Mm-hmm.
And so Nadir and his sister, I'm not ever going to pronounce her name again because, like,
Amya.
Amia, okay. His sister are like looking at each other because they felt that same emotion before, and they can tell exactly who these people are to her. And so they get in their feels too, and it's really cute. And then Nadir is like, he lets them go off on their own to, like, you know, share their secrets or whatever,
Yeah.
get their alone time. But then he knocks on the door and he's like, just checking in. It's like he can't even stay away.
Mm-hmm.
He can't stay away. It's so cute. And he's like fighting it so hard, but he can't.
What I also thought was cute was Amya and the sister getting together, because didn't they start
Yes.
getting like very romantic toward the end,
Yes.
like as
Well,
it went on?
okay, but we don't know because, like, they slept in the same bed and they were there and we got that sense, but then their explanation was that Willow was having nightmares and Amia whatever was staying there to help her. And I got the very, like, I mean, I also felt like they were getting together, right? But I also get the sense of Amia, whatever. Is that Amia?
Amya, Amya.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, I got the sense off of her that she is more empathetic. And because she felt some of the things that I think Willow is feeling, like, I think she also could be the person that would just be there because she knows what the other person's going through.
Mm-hmm.
And so while I do think that they were getting together, I could also believe that she was there just to help Willow because she knows exactly what's going on with Willow and the deep, like, torture that happened to her. Speaking of torture, during Frostfire, they go to the keep to celebrate, but they're also looking for the crown. And there's one place called the Vaults that it just, like, she cannot enter. The smell is very traumatic for her. It's very much like a PTSD episode going on. And so she leaves the vaults and she has this heart to heart with Nadir about why that happened. She basically tells him that his father tortured her as a child to see if she had power. And this is where she had to hide it so far in her to where he could not sense it, that she hid it from herself too. And he tortured her. And Nadir wants to go kill his dad. But he doesn't tell her that. And she's still on him about being complacent with these things that happened to her and happened to other people in the kingdom. And I think that scene is very, very poignant.
Yeah.
Because he's seeing why she is the way she is, why she hates him so much, why, like, whether or not it's right or fair or whatever, this is the reason she hates him. And she hates being around him and she hates being here. And, you know, this is just the tip of the iceberg of what his dad did to her.
Yeah, and I got the sense that Nadir kind of was suspicious of all of this and could anticipate it, but to hear it confirmed just already was ammo added to his arsenal for when he takes down his father, because he hates him.
He's had a few things confirmed, like the rape in the jail, you know, all of those things. And then we also hear why he hates his father with such a burning passion and why he's willing to do anything he can to get him deaded, right? Get him unalived. And it is because of Nadir's mother, who we meet in a flashback episode with Cersei. We meet little baby Nadir. Like, he's probably this big for sure. And little baby Nadir and Cersei and Wolf are there and they're talking to Ryan and they're, like, plotting to make an alliance since Deidre isn't allowing Cersei to have the crown, right? And Wolf sees the little baby and he's playing with baby Nadir. And you can just see that he wants a baby and he'd be such a great dad. And Cersei is looking at him like all hot and bothered because she's like, oh, it's so cute.
She was like,
It's
I
so
didn't want
cute.
kids, but
But
now I think
that
I
looks
do.
pretty hot. And so I think Nadir is ultimately why Lor's mom was born. Because shortly after that, they made a baby.
Yes.
Because, yeah, she was all hot and bothered by him.
I love that Nadir took Lor to meet his mom
Mm-hmm.
in that scene. Like,
And his mom is like, is basically like just staring out the door.
Yeah. She's
like a shell.
Very catatonic. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the very like end of Cersei's story, I love that we see that she was pregnant and she had the baby. And we see Wolf like basically saying, we will find you, and telling the person to take the baby to his brother and tell him to take care of it. And like even Cersei like gets this maternal vibe and is very maternal about the baby. And so I loved seeing that from like the beginning where Cersei did not want a baby. We knew Wolf would be a good dad, and he does. And then we know, we don't see this in the book, but we know something drastic happens right at the end, right? We know it because she is known for destroying the world. So we know something happens. We know that the baby is taken out, so we know it happens right after the baby is taken out. And so it just tugged at my heartstrings when he's telling the baby that he'll come back, knowing that they don't get to. They don't get to experience motherhood, especially after she just came to terms with being a mother.
But also, though, Tara, like, Wolf, I 100% liked him the whole time, but Cersei, I was just like, okay, if you care about your daughter so much, why are you going through all this shit? Do you really need to own the entire world, basically?
Yeah.
Like, she was such an unlikable person, and the things that she was doing, like kidnapping that priestess and like imprisoning her to the point of this bitch went nuts, and then still like, yes, you're going to perform this ceremony still.
See, I get your point on that because I also feel the same way. Like, but I think at a certain point it was too far gone. You know, like she'd made too many steps to like end it without destroying the world also. So maybe that's how she destroys the world, is she tries to end it.
And what also got me was like right when all this shit is happening at the end, the 286 years before Cersei, her mom is like, why didn't you just talk to me? Like, I was never going to withhold it from you. I didn't think it was the right time to make you primary because of, you know, XYZ. Like, I wanted Cersei to just open those lines of communication with her mom so badly before it got to this point.
Communication is key.
Communicate.
But so, yes, I agree with you. And Cersei was like that all the way up until that very last second of when that baby was put in her arms, I think. Like, she didn't feel a connection throughout the childbirth. The only connection she felt to that baby is it made Wolf happy. Right? Up until that baby was put into her arms, I don't think she felt it. And then once that baby was, I think she felt it, but I think it was too far gone for her to do anything.
Yeah, because now you have Ryan breathing down your gate.
Yeah. And so I agree with you, but I also, like, I feel like there was some story behind that. But yes, Cersei, I felt bad because I think Cersei could have turned into a better person. It's much like Caltaine and Lysandra. Like, if we had ended their lives at a certain point, no, we wouldn't have liked them, right? But because their lives weren't ended at that point, they turned out to be some of the best characters. And like, I wanted that for Cersei. I wanted this baby to be that changing point for her. And it seems like we're not going to get that. I don't know, because there's a third book. Maybe she's out there somewhere. Maybe she was the person who like kept the baby alive. in some
Yeah.
form. I don't know.
I'm
but,
hoping
like,
for some kind of flashback to fill in more of these gaps. Because I'm definitely intrigued by the
I
story.
loved the like change I saw in Cersei that moment that baby was born.
Yeah.
And then she's
That
like,
was cool.
okay, it's not just about Wolf wanting this baby. It's about that I want this baby now too. And they both told the baby they were coming back for it. And like, it just hurt because I'm like, no, you're not.
You're like, I know what happens. I'm in present day.
You are
in
not.
this story. You are not. Yes.
That baby does not grow up with you guys.
I mean, there's so much talk of like torture and trauma and, trauma triggering and Cersei's decisions. But there were some lighter moments too, like when they're doing recon, trying to find the crown and sense it. And Nadir takes Lor down into the catacombs and she has the ability to talk to their artifact, the torch. Like it speaks back and it's like, bitch, that thing is nowhere around here. Sorry. It's like basically all he can tell her.
And everybody else is like, why the hell are you able to speak to my like artifact? Like, why? And I think that this has something to do with the fact that she is two. Like, she is both the Woodlands and the heart.
And maybe because she's a product of two soulmates too. I don't know. I don't know how that affects things. But but there was also when she like started drinking a lot.
I was about to say,
the party.
Okay, so those scenes were my favorite. Because she keeps leaving Nadir, and like this is just such a blow to him because like they're in his kingdom. He is the crown prince basically of this kingdom, and everybody knows like he is like a ladies' man, right? And this bitch who's like a human,
Viviana.
no less. No, like she is a human who is like thought of as the lowest of the low, and like everybody's sitting there like this bitch keeps leaving him. She keeps like getting mad at him and leaving, and he's not doing jack crap about it. And so they're all like, how? Why is she still around?
Yeah, he's like, doesn't he at some point like bring her to the side and he's like, okay, I get that you want to like do this, but like, can you do it a little more privately, please?
Like you're hurting my reputation, okay? Yeah. Come on now.
He's such a doll.
But she leaves after he starts flirting with Viviana, right? And this is the one that she like goes back to the room and gets all in her feels about, like how she's not good enough and like, Viviana was so pretty and like blah, blah, blah. And she gets wasted.
White girl wasted.
Yes. So much that she is like vomiting all over everything. And he comes in and he's like, are you okay? And then he just goes and holds her hair back. I'm like, oh. That is like true love right there. True love.
And then it's like the next day and she hasn't brushed her teeth and breakfast.
We also see, and this goes back to my point of like the artifacts talking, because Cersei and Wolf are scheming to join their artifacts together to where they have one ruler over both of their like kingdoms, right? And so that is why they kidnapped the priestess lady, and like she goes insane because they put her in like a cage.
Poor Cloris.
Yes. And they are trying to, whatever. And that is what destroys the world and gets rid of heart magic, right? And all of the magic in the world for like years. But heart magic is still gone until Lor is bringing it back slowly. But that is, again, why I think maybe they combined all of the artifacts accidentally, not just their two. Which is why Lor can talk to all of them. So why Lor can talk to all of them and why the magic was taken away from everybody.
That's a good theory. I don't have any theories. I'm done with trying to theorize. I'm always wrong. But also in the past, you learn that Ryan was looking for something called the Ark, which we don't know anything about that shit.
But we do know that that is one of the like heirlooms of Heart. And that is what, coincidentally enough, Cersei offered Cloris for helping her combine these artifacts. And then she like makes this bitchy comment to Wolf like, there's no way in hell I'm giving that lady one of my family heirlooms.
Yeah, like what is her reason here? It can't be good. Like, no, you're not getting this from us. Yeah. Um, I have like notes on like, so chapter 33, thereabouts, there's like another party, and this is where, she introduces herself to Ryan. And it's like before the party, Nadir is simping so bad and begging to eat her out before the party. It's just like this book turned up the steam. It's like Atlas
Mm-hmm.
had that charm and kind of that golden boy swagger in the first book, that bachelor swagger. But like Nadir in this book has the shadow daddy kind of
Mm-hmm.
swagger. And
Or in
Lord,
his sense, he's a rainbow daddy
a rainbow,
because his
yes.
power is like
Aurora
rainbowish.
Borealis and yes, that's true.
Yes.
So things are steaming up between them.
Yeah. And this is also where Nadir causes a scene quite drastically because she is trying to get information out of Vale, who Nadir tells her is like, he can't keep his mouth closed. He can't keep a secret. And he's like, doing some secret mission for his dad. But if you can get him talking, he will tell it all, right? And so she's over here trying to get him talking. And Nadir is with her at the beginning. And then his dad calls him away. And so she's just keeping on. And she's like flirting with him to get him talking. And she's like, oh, tell me more. That sounds so like amazing. Like, poor little me. I've never been anywhere. Tell me about your journey.
I'm a stupid human.
And the deer walks in as she's doing this and he goes crazy. And she's like, I almost had the information we needed, dumbass. I just feel her so much.
Doesn't he break all the bones in Vale's hand or something?
Yeah, like
he does.
Yeah, and I think that is where, because Ryan figures out who she is from some of this, and I think that is the point where he figured out that there's more to her than, because she also introduces herself to him, and she gets mad that he doesn't like remember her. So I'm like, you don't want him to remember you, bitch. Shush. But she's getting mad, and he does get this idea that she is something, and so they have to go hide, basically, because he knows who she is, and he sends his men after her.
Yeah, at least from, the catacomb trip, talking to the torch, and then this weird shit with the dad, they do figure out, okay, maybe the crown is hidden somewhere in Heart. So we're going to go to the palace, camp out there, just two of us, and see if you can sense anything. And it becomes kind of a nice little simple
for a little while
trip, for a little tiny, but like the tiniest sliver of a moment, because the next day they wake up and it's like they're surrounded.
Well, no, I mean, for a little while until she gets pissed off at him again.
Yeah, that too. They have a very feisty relationship. It's very spicy, fiery.
I don't remember what he did, but there was a moment where she was all for him, and then she's like, no, I hate your guts now.
They make love, but Lor backs out.
Yeah. So he's still trying to get her to like go the distance
all the
with
way.
Him. And she keeps like finding a reason to back out. And there is a point where she is willing, but then he says something or does something, and it like just brings home that like they are two completely different people. And also brings her back to, he was okay with what his dad was doing, I think. And so she's like, I can't.
She has a lot of triggers that, yeah.
But then we see Ryan, and he attacks them. Nadir is doing his best to keep them safe, but he is losing the battle, right? His dad's magic is stronger than his, and he is losing the battle. And then all of a sudden, we see some red lightning come down and trap Ryan. And if we remember back, she said when she was little, all she remembers is that her magic was destructive and that there was red lightning. And so we know as soon as we see the words red lightning, it is Lor who's tapped into her magic and is able to, like, not only with this itty bitty amount of her magic that she is able to tap into, because we also see that it's not her full powers. She is not there yet. But with this little bitty amount, like, she is able to hold Ryan no problem.
Mhm.
It's like she has all of heart magic in her.
So they do find the crown there. She blasts through a wall. And then by the time they're surrounded and she saves the two of them, they are able to make a run for it back to the secret estate that Ryan doesn't know about. Supposedly. Who knows? But he hasn't discovered it yet. And so they run back to tell everyone that, oh, hey, gig's up. They know about Lor and the rest of you potentially.
They knew before. Like, that trip, they ran back after he found out at the keep. And they were still supposedly safe.
Yes.
So.
And so they're hoping that Ryan didn't follow them to the secret estate. But they pretty much come to the decision, well, the mirror back in the Sun Kingdom said that when we find the crown, to come back and visit the mirror again to talk to it. So that becomes their next goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the next book, which is what, Fate of the Sun King, I think is the name of book 3. So I'll be curious to see what happens. And like I said, I really want more of the Cersei backstory to see what became of her and Wolf. However tragic that might be. But
yeah. I'm trying to look up what Nadir did that she was like, never mind, I don't want to be with you anymore.
Yeah. I don't know if he was like, what?
Because there was something he said that, oh, he called her his.
Oh, yeah. She doesn't stand for the possessive.
Or he said, tell me you're mine, while he was doing things. And she's like, no, I am not yours. I will never be anybody else's again. And I think that that's a trigger from her being raped in prison and not having any autonomy over herself. She's like, no, I am not yours. I am my own. And I make my choices.
Sorry, Nadir.
Yeah. It's like, bitch is a little...
She needs to work through some things. And you're going to have to be patient.
Yeah. And he's not being very patient. Like, he told her he was going to be patient and slow. No, and then he's like...
But, like, the way that this mating bond, soulmate bond, whatever it is described, it's just so overpowering. And, like, even she has problems, like, sleeping at night because she's just, like, feeling it. And he's, like, feeling it. And they're just going through it. And they can't do anything about it, really, just because of who they are. I don't know. I'm really excited about it. I'm glad that I can't remember exactly who. I feel like it was a few different people who in the Amazon book club pitched this book to us to read, which I'm glad that we picked it up because they were very fast reads, very entertaining, like very snappy. And I will have to see the story through to the end. So I have no idea what's going to happen in the third book, but we shall see. It doesn't sound good for the Sun King.
No, and it also doesn't. But like I am gonna go out and venture that, like, because we heard it from the flame, like the whatever artifact, he was never supposed to be the Sun King. I have a feeling he is not really the Sun King. He is just like, maybe that's why he wanted Lor so bad, because she would have given him power that he doesn't already have, because I don't think we ever saw him use his power very much.
Besides, like, the illusion stuff?
But that wasn't a very strong power. Like, a lot of people could have that one. And, like, everybody in the kingdom has power. But the primary is supposed to have, like, a ridiculous amount of power.
I think we just need to figure out what happened to his big brother and his father. What the plan was there, because he seems just kind of like a schmuck in the flashback scenes, like very weak, had
he
no
still
desire.
seems like a schmuck.
Oh, yeah, but, like, I'm so gorgeous and everybody loves me and I'm the king kinda thing,
Yeah.
whereas back then, he seemed very just, "I have no idea what I'm doing, I'm not interested in whatever, and I'm not savvy in court intrigue or politics whatsoever at all."
Yeah. Well, and I also get the sense, like, again, I think that there's something going on with him not supposed to be the Sun King. And I think that that is why he's so mad that he got Sun King trial bonded with a chick that doesn't have very much power, like a normal amount, you know? Because I think we're going to figure out he's not as powerful. And he's never going to be as powerful because he got bonded with somebody that isn't powerful. And that's why he kept killing the girls to not ever have to bond.
Didn't in Trial of the Sun Queen, the mirror tell Lore that this can't
This
happen
can't
again?
happen again.
You can't bond with the Sun King. So there's something, yeah, there's
Mhm.
something there. You're right.
There's
We will
something to do with
see.
Atlas and how he's not supposed to be there. I enjoyed this book, and once I got to reading it, which
Kara's been busy, y'all. She's a
I have.
professor. She's been grading shit.
Yeah, I still have to grade tonight. Anyway, once I got to reading it, it took me two days, and then I was done
Yeah.
with it. So it is a very quick read. It is very much a like, what is happening?
And the romance is really good too.
I like the back and forth. I think like they are very authentic couple because they like I felt the same way that they felt in multiple like scenes. And I think like Lore's whininess sometimes annoys me. Because
Same.
it's like you can either get over this or not. You can't keep blaming a person that had nothing to do with it though. Like I get that you want to think that he had the power, but like you were your mother and you were the primary of Heart, and you didn't have enough power to stop him. So like, come on. But either way, yeah, I think that there's good things coming in this third book.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting because I mean, there's such this icky situation that she doesn't want to be owned or used by him, right? But he's had to be very open, like, hey, I need you to do the bad part in offing my father because I literally cannot do it because of,
but I want
how
him
this world works.
I want him dead.
Yes.
So yeah, I think he's been very honest with her and she has not, up to the point of the very last scene with them where she tells him that we have to go to Aphelion. And he's like, no, we just got you out of there. And she's like, well, the mirror said once I got the crown, if I brought it back, they would have a prize for me. And they're like, well, like, why don't somebody else go? And she's like, no, it said for me. And he's like, wait, you didn't tell me this. And she's like, I'm telling you now. I'm like,
Okay.
I'm like, I can feel his like hatred of that. But he's also so in love with her that like he's not mad at her. But like as a reader, I'm like, bitch, tell him the truth.
Yes. He's getting a little impatient. Like he's trying to be patient with her, but yes.
It's like Aelin in Throne of Glass, where she's like always like 4 steps ahead of everybody else and keeping all these secrets. And, she's keeping so many secrets.
That annoys a lot of readers too. I mean,
I loved it. I love the secret keeping and like the holding out. But like this one, I'm like, I can see why he's mad at you.
Yeah. We're going to get more of that feistiness for sure. I can't wait to see it. Yeah. So.
Well, this was our extra episode this month, and I know everybody is dying to hear the Ever King, which we will give you shortly. Again, we were running late this month. Sorry, my fault. But we will give you an episode for the Ever King. So hope you, in the meantime, enjoyed your extra episode on book 2 of the Trials of the Sun Queen.
And we will do another kind of vote or something because there are plenty of books that have been submitted and a lot of them look amazing. So maybe we'll do another vote here in the near future to see what we read next. So,
Yes. And at
woohoo.
some point when June comes, we may have another extra episode for you for book 3.
Ooh,
My
yeah.
3 is like weird.
Book 3. Fate of the Sun King by
Nope, this
Nisha
one's not any
Tuli.
better. Look at like that space in my fingers. Okay.
Okay, Tara is throwing up gang signs now, so that's when we need to cut the episode because
Unfortunately, I'm not. This is just how my fingers work with a 3 here.
Oh boy. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this episode and we will see you soon.
Bye.